the left has a problem with violence. It is in its heart right now.
I don't think it is only the left. I mean, you have literally seen people on both sides committing violence. I think that the problem is not the left. I think it is the extremes on both sides of the party. And that is what's happening. Like they're the loudest voices, whether the leaders want them or not. And they're the ones who tend to be the most violent. I don't think that's fair to say it's only the left. I mean,
but why is it happening? Why do late night comedians go on TV and encourage or coddle or give lip service to this vandalism of what went on with Tesla dealerships and so on? Why are there so many prominent people?
People didn't
like,
get hurt.
I totally get why Luigi
Mangione
was murdered. Like, why? I don't understand.
Listen, I'm not for vandalism, but like
it's more than that. They firebomb these things. Like it's obviously
dangerous, but it's happening on both sides. What
person on the right is committing violence today?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, when you're in power, you don't tend to be the ones that are doing that. But I think after they lost the election in 2020, there was a mob and a person died, and it was a riot at the Capitol. It was crazy.
It was a terrible day, and it should not have happened.
It was a horrible day. And it's not the only example. Let me just check my calendar,
and it was 5.5 years ago.
Can we also talk about the fact that someone broke into Nancy Pelosi's house and violently beat up her husband?
You're saying that homeless drug addict is a conservative?
Well, I mean,
boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about the left and the Democrats now in full-blown defense mode over the fact that the left-wing domestic terrorism in this country has gotten so out of control that they can no longer deny that it exists. Okay, this is something that we've experienced for the past 8 to 10 years now. Okay, and now all of a sudden we're having real conversations about the fact that, hey, a lot of this stuff is happening because of the extremism on the left getting out of control. Okay, the latest act of domestic terror that happened in Boulder, Colorado involved an individual screaming "Free Palestine" while firebombing elderly Jewish rallygoers who were simply showing support for the Israeli hostages that are currently still being held by Hamas in Gaza. Now, the left, they are now trying to play the both sides game, right? They're trying to say, well, our side does commit acts of domestic terrorism because they can't deny it anymore, even though, again, we've seen this for the past 10 years straight. But in order to deflect the conversation, they're saying, well, you don't understand. It's a both sides issue, right? Trump supporters do this too, right? It happens on the right as well too. So therefore, it's an issue that's on both sides. Okay. Now, again, they're doing this because they don't want to have that real conversation and admit the truth, which is that this is not a both sides issue. This is a one side issue. Okay. Because I have not seen any domestic terrorism from so-called white supremacists, at least not any incident that I can think of, not no major incident off the top of my head. Okay, despite the lies from the FBI claiming that the biggest domestic terrorism threat to this country is white supremacy, I just haven't seen it. I think that the biggest domestic terror threat to this country is woke supremacy. Okay, and we've seen a lot of woke supremacy for the past 10 years straight. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this clip featuring Maria Cardona, who is a left-wing lunatic on CNN trying to play the both sides game, essentially trying to blame President Trump for the attacks against Jews in this country. So without further adu, let's get into it.
Anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic rhetoric on college campuses across the country.
We have had a problem. It's much less today than it was a year and a half ago. I know many people who graduated from college in the last week or two who had good experience. I know some Jewish students who were harassed occasionally and whose life was made uncomfortable, which should not happen. I think there were administrations that were too weak. I agree with that. But I think that's a long way ago from some people taking guns and shooting people point blank.
Yeah, I agree. Here's what we also have to acknowledge. And I agree that a lot of the college students and the colleges and the leaders did not deal with this as they should have. But we also have to acknowledge, Abby, that the rise of anti-Semitism in the last decade can be correlated with the rise of Donald Trump. And the kind of language that he gives a permission slip for all of this anti-Semitic language to be used, in a way that we really hadn't seen before. The President of the United States, when you have dinner with a neo-Nazi, when you pardon people who are the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, whose groups have an ideology that supports anti-Semitism, when you have anti-Semitic tropes that you traffic in and that you amplify on your own social media, where you have followers of millions of people, You cannot give a pass to the President of the United States with the kind of megaphone that he has and say, oh, he has absolutely nothing to do with this.
That is absolutely nuts. You guys are barely scratching the surface here. This isn't just about we need more Democrats to condemn what's happening. How about let's get Democrats not joining in on it? How about AOC and Representative Omar don't join those college campuses? And this hasn't been going on for 10 years. It's been going on for 18 months. And it starts on the college campuses. It empowers people to go beyond. And it has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
I want to be a little bit more.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Yes, this has nothing to do with Donald Trump, right? It has nothing to do with President Trump, as Governor Sununu points out here. However, I don't think that his response is adequate in the sense that it is just insane to continue to claim that the most pro-Israel president in my lifetime, right, is somehow an anti-Semite, right? Really? I mean, how do you square that, right? Because again, President Trump has been very pro-Israel, and to call him an anti-Semite is silly, right? It's something that's just made up, right? These people are just making it up, okay? President Trump gets criticism from both sides, okay, for being too pro-Israel. So if that's the case, how can you say that he's an anti-Semite? If President Trump is an anti-Semite, then again, I guess you could say that Joe Biden and the Democrat Party, the leaders of the Democrat Party, yeah, you could put them in the same league as Hitler, right? You can put them in the same conversation as them when it comes to their hatred of Jews, right? If President Trump is an anti-Semite, okay? Furthermore, on top of that, yes, this has been going on for 10 plus years because it's not just an anti-Semitism thing, right? That's what people got to understand. This is deeper than just anti-Semitism. This is the communist ideology that is so prevalent on the left, the oppressor-oppressed Marxist ideology that these people believe in. This is how you have the LGBTQ community identifying, right, sympathizing with the Palestinians. How does that happen? How does the LGBTQ community sympathize with the Palestinian plight? When, I mean, let's be real. If you drop off any of these people in Palestine or in Gaza, I don't think they're going to be welcomed, right? So why do they support the Palestinians? Well, the reason why is because they relate to the Palestinians through their communist worldview. Right. And that's where it comes from. It comes from the cultural Marxist worldview that these people have adopted, in which they say that, hey, I'm oppressed in my country, right? As an LGBTQ person, or just any of them, right? The whole identity politics thing, any of these people that claim they're victims, okay, because of their identity, it's the same thing, right? I'm oppressed, okay? And I'm dealing with the white man in America who is the oppressor. And I know what I'm dealing with when it comes to the conflict, the class conflict here in America, right? And because of that, I not only identify with the Palestinian cause, the struggle, I stand with them in solidarity, right? I'm just explaining the Marxist perspective, right? That is the language that they use. These are all Marxist terms, right? This is Marxist terminology, okay? They use this because this is a global Marxist movement, in which, again, they see Israel as the oppressor of the Palestinians, okay? And that the Palestinian cause is just a conflict that is a part of a much broader Marxist struggle, like global Marxist struggle. That's what this is. So that's how you get certain groups, again, like the LGBTQ, okay? Or, you have black people as well too, other people who, again, claim to be minorities and oppressed here in America. This is why they identify so heavily, okay? This is why they stand in solidarity with the Palestinians, because of their Marxist worldview. So Marxism really has shaped the Palestinian movement, right? The Palestinian cause is quite literally shaped by Marxist ideology, right? In anti-imperialism, class struggle, critiques of nationalism. Like, these are all things that are fundamental and core to the Palestinian liberation, which is another Marxist term, liberation movement, okay? So again, I just feel like a lot of people are just really ignorant in regards to the core issue here, right? It's not just an anti-Semitism thing. And I'm not saying that to downplay the anti-Semitic factor in this. I'm not saying that because, again, some of it does have to do with, anti-Semitism, right? But I'm just saying that when you just chalk it up to anti-Semitism, you're not really getting to the core of what this movement is about. It's an anti-capitalist movement. That's what it is, okay? It is pro-socialism, pro-communism. And that's where it comes from, right? And these people really do believe that they are justified in using acts of violence to achieve their anti-capitalist, pro-socialist, pro-communist agenda. This is why these people are out here firebombing Teslas, right? Shooting up Tesla dealerships and stuff like that. Well, they see an ultra-capitalist like Elon Musk, who is the most successful capitalist probably in the history of the world, right? I mean, he's the richest man in the world. They see him, again, as a representation of everything that they're against. And this is why they were so passionate in their opposition to Elon Musk. Again, going as far as to randomly vandalize Teslas, again, shooting up dealerships, committing acts of domestic terrorism, okay, regardless of who the actual victim was, is because that is their way of fighting back against the capitalist system, right? That is oppressing them, okay? And yeah, I just want people to really understand that, okay? Because that really gets to the heart of it. That gets to the core of it. But you know, when it comes to this individual, Maria Cardona, I mean, she's a lunatic, right? She's a loony. So I'm not surprised that she's trying to, again, play the both sides thing here and try to blame Trump. But you can't get around the fact that a vast majority of the domestic terrorism that we've seen, okay, in response to this conflict has not come from the right. It has not come from the right at all. It has come from the left. It is 100% come from the left, okay? Because, again, the leftists, they're very passionate about this issue. There's nobody more passionate about this issue and taking action to try to affect this issue than the left, okay? I mean, again, don't get me wrong. There are people on the right who, you know, aren't pro-Israel, let's just say that, right? Or they're against Zionism. But I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of that is just talk, right? I mean, a lot of it from the right is just, you know, people just talking without mobilizing. On the left, they actually mobilized, right? They mobilized against it, okay? Which is the big difference, right? That is the main difference between the left and the right on this issue. The left, they actually mobilize, okay? And they take action. And that's what you're seeing as a result of this, okay? Again, when you look at what happened to the United Healthcare CEO, the reason why they have deified the assassin is because, again, this is about being anti-capitalist, right? That's what it's about. It's about tearing down the capitalist system, okay? And they believe that acts of violence are justified in the pursuit of achieving their ideal communist society, okay?
More specific about what we're talking about here, because I definitely think, to the congressman's point, there are specific things that are being said on these campuses that are anti-Semitic. But the idea that AOC and, I mean, I don't know, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar are engaging in those activities, I'm not sure
they
if
showed
there's
up
a
on those
lot of
campuses.
evidence of
They
that.
spoke at the campuses.
You know what I mean?
They were there on those campuses.
But I guess,
Speaking out.
but here's what I'm saying. But do you understand what I'm saying? If they show up on college campuses to protest, you know, what's the situation in Gaza, are you saying automatically the same thing as uttering anti-Semitic words?
Yes, they're
and doing
anti-Semitic. Make no mistake
language?
about it. Their words are absolutely, and this is all based in anti-Semitism.
Right, what I'm saying is, like, do you have evidence that they actually engaged in anti-Semitic language? That is the issue.
You know, I mean, what, supporting terrorists and some of her past. Are you saying? I mean, do we have to go through the statements?
I am talking about
it's like,
on college campuses. You know, because I think that there is a difference.
The history of
protesting
is very clear.
There's a history. There's a difference between protesting and saying and doing anti-Semitic things. Would you not agree?
Ilhan Omar's rhetoric, as it pertains to Jewish people in the state of Israel, is deplorable and disgusting. She shouldn't even be in Congress, in my opinion. And them showing up on those college campuses is a green light for the most vicious, disgusting, despicable rhetoric against Jewish students and against Jewish people. You can absolutely draw a correlation. And to pretend that they were on the college campuses and saying kumbaya is to just be naive.
Yeah, so again, I understand the anti-Semitism angle. I just don't think it gets to the heart of the issue, right? I think the real connection that you make between somebody like an AOC and stuff like this is her Marxist ideology, right? I mean, her socialist beliefs, okay? That is the real connection, okay? But regardless, you see how the left, they're trying to now reframe the conversation as a both sides thing, right? Well, it's both sides. You don't understand it's both sides. No. It's not both sides, okay? All of these acts of domestic terrorism that we've seen in this country for the last 10 years straight, a vast majority of them have come from the left. A vast majority of the violence, the destruction, the vandalism, I don't care what measure you use, right, has come from the left. Who's caused more economic damage in this country than the left, right? Look at what happened during BLM. Billions of dollars in damages from the BLM riots, which, by the way, was rooted in what? Marxism. Why were the leaders of BLM, the 3 black lesbians, why are they Marxists? It's because, again, the Marxist ideology is what drives this, more so than anything. Look at the Roe v. Wade riots, Antifa, all Marxist, right? All of this is Marxism. The pro-Palestine thing, Marxism. But they got to get some Republicans on this channel that can really, call this out for what it is, right? And really get to the heart of it. Because, again, it's more about that than just the anti-Semitism thing. When you make it just about anti-Semitism, you're watering it down. And now it becomes a convoluted conversation that really is not addressing the issue at hand, which is that, again, Democrats are in bed, not just with, anti-Semites, but also with radical communist Marxist lunatics who believe that acts of violence are justified to achieve their political goals. Again, whether that be the BLM, Democrats are in bed with them. Roe v. Wade, Democrats are in bed with them. Antifa, Democrats are in bed with them. The pro-Palestinians, Democrats are in bed with them. Democrats are in bed with all of these individuals, right? All of these Marxist movements, Democrats are in bed with these people. And that is the real issue. AOC, Ilhan Omar's, the Rashida Tlaib's, the Ayanna Presley's, all of them are in bed with, again, these Marxists. They're either Marxists themselves, okay, socialists themselves, communists, or, again, they're in bed with them. They sympathize with them, right? Including the establishment Democrats. They, at the very least, they sympathize with it, right? They tolerate it, okay? And in fact, they embrace it when they can use it against Trump. And again, that's why if you frame the conversation in that way, when you talk about that, it's hard for them to now deflect it and say, well, Trump's an anti-Semite. Trump had dinner with an anti-Semite, right? Right? That's what they do, okay, in order to deflect. But again, it's going to be very hard to come out here and to make an argument that President Trump is in bed with Marxists, right? He's definitely not in bed with those people, right? So again, that's why you got to make the conversation about that. And again, I'm not saying that, again, there is no anti-Semitic angle to it. I'm just saying that's the minor issue here, because the violence that we've seen in this country is not just limited to violence against Jews. We've seen violence against all type of groups of people, anybody that stands against these Marxists, right? And what they're trying to achieve, okay? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.